Welcome to Your Personal Power Pod, a podcast about aligning yourself with the life you want. And here are your hosts, Sandy Abel and Shannon Young.
Shannon, can you believe this is our 70th episode?
Woohoo!
I can't even imagine. We just started saying, there's a lot of things we'd like to share with people out there. Let's do a podcast. And now we're on 70.
Can you imagine?
We have thousands of listeners, and it's just overwhelming and so exciting. Many thanks to everybody out there who likes what we're doing
And are taking this journey with us. I remember when we first started talking about it, I knew broadcasting, but didn't know how to podcast. You knew the topics, but weren't sure how to broadcast. And so we just kind of said, we're just going to have faith in the universe and we're going to put one foot in front of the other and find out what we can. And now we're doing it. It's just so fun.
And we're on 70. It's so fun. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's great. So thanks to everybody who's participating in this journey with us.
Absolutely. And we're so thrilled that you're finding value in what we share.
Yes.
So that's what it's all about.
It is. So tell us what we're talking about today.
Today we're talking about work-life balance.
Ooh.
I was in a meeting with several high-powered kinds of people. 2 or 3 of them were saying, oh my gosh, my work is running my life. I have to travel. When I'm home, I work till 6 and 7 at night, and I never see my kids, and I never see my family. They were overwhelmed with work. So I thought maybe we would talk about that today.
I think that's one of the overriding issues of American society. We put a value on progress and success and money and don't seem to value downtime and family and rest like many other cultures around the world do. It's just not sustainable.
Yes, it's not. If you do it too long, it will impact everything in your
Mhm.
life. But a lot of people struggle with it. If you're one of those people who's reliable and responsible and spend all your time either at work or thinking about work, you allow it to take precedence over everything in your life, including your family, your health, and your relationships. You might find that you are overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and unhappy and that your relationships are suffering.
Yeah. So what is it about work? I know that we tend to lump a whole lot of negative emotions and repercussions into the work category. But what specifically, when we're talking about the reasons we might feel overwhelmed, what are some of those reasons?
Well, if you were raised with a strong work ethic, it can be a positive thing, but it also needs to have a balance. If you are reliable and responsible, that's also a positive thing and people can trust you. But you have to also be able to step back. If you have too much pressure and too many demands at work and you don't have the ability to put boundaries around it, or you have too many deadlines at once, you're going to be overwhelmed.
That's a hard one. Sometimes being able to say to your boss, that doesn't work for me right now, or is there a way that we can make it so maybe I can have a weekend off every month? That's a challenge.
And you have to be able to do that. And a lot of people feel pressure to perform tasks even outside of their job description.
Yes.
If somebody else says, oh, wow, I have to go to the doctor tomorrow, would you do this meeting for me? And you go, oh, sure, feeling that you're being a good colleague and supportive. But then that puts what you have to do on hold so you can go do that. You say yes to too many requests, or you feel pressure to perform things that are outside of your job description. You just look around and go, oh, well, that needs to be done. And Sam didn't get around to it, so I'll just do that.
Yeah, and that can be okay if your coworkers do the same for you. If you need to take your kid to the doctor or are just having a really down day and your coworkers are there to support you in that, then that can work out really well. But I know a lot of people who just wind up doing more and more and more, and other people say, oh, I don't have to do that now. And then they wind up feeling like they're carrying the entire burden.
A lot of times people do it because they feel good about themselves when they do. They feel that they're helping other people or that they're just dynamite at their job, and they lose sight of the bigger picture. I know you were telling me you know somebody who does that.
Yes, a friend of mine did not come from a very supportive, encouraging household that appreciated her for who she is. And so she gets her sense of self-worth from her job, which means that if she's not getting that at home, because she's not sure how to carry that into her home life now that she's an adult, she spends more and more time at work because that's where she feels good about herself. And so she's running herself ragged
Yeah.
because she can't figure out how to bring that feeling of value home with her.
Right. Even though she has children and a husband and a home, being there, she doesn't get that same sense of accomplishment,
Exactly.
which is too bad because those are the most important things, really.
And those are the ones that will sustain her. She's going to work every day feeling like I have to stay here longer and longer and longer because this is where I feel good about me. But at the same time, it's depleting her.
Exactly.
So it's a really damaging cycle to be caught in.
Exactly. There are many signs and symptoms of being overwhelmed. You have irrational thoughts, really, where you think and catastrophize. If I'm not there, the whole place will fall down or I will get fired. Sometimes when you are overwhelmed, you feel sort of mentally paralyzed and unable to function. We've talked about fuzzy brain. You get the fuzzy brain. Even simple things feel impossible.
You become less flexible, meaning that you can't adapt mentally. When things are changing rapidly, your brain doesn't keep up.
Yeah, so you just find that you're overreacting to minor stressors. You might panic if you can't find your keys, or you may find yourself yelling at people for no reason, no significant reason. Or you might even find yourself withdrawing from your coworkers or your friends and family because you don't have any patience anymore because you're just so stressed.
And they don't understand why you're putting yourself through this. So it becomes a wedge between you.
They do what they can to support you, but if you need to spend all of your time doing something else, it really does impact your relationships. And that's one of the signs of being overwhelmed is when your relationships are shaky because you're not able to focus on them because you're angry or irritable or anxious or yell a lot.
And it can bleed over into the rest of your life. I've had days where I'm so overwhelmed at work. In fact, it just happened recently. I'm in a very busy period and in the job that I do. I love it, but it is mentally taxing and there are a lot of moving pieces and a lot of tiny details. And by the time I leave at the end of the day, my brain isn't working very well. It's very tired. So I had another thing that I was supposed to be doing for an outside organization that was going to require more studying and taking a test. And I just couldn't make it happen because the thought of coming home at the end of the day and logging back onto a computer was so overwhelming. So I just couldn't
Yes, exactly.
complete the rest of my commitments because I didn't have the brain power.
Right. Yeah. And that's so not you because you always honor your commitments. But if your brain won't work, your brain won't work. You got to go with that. You know, in your business, there is a really high level stressful time. And then there are lots of times when it's much more mellow and doable. So you'd probably just gear up for this difficult, overwhelming time. But if it were 24/7 or if it were year round where you never got a break, you might be needing to learn how to say no or find another job if that's what the job entails.
Yes. And I'm very, very lucky to have a boss who understands that. So he designed the positions to only work 3.5 to 4 days a week because he knows that if you work longer than that, you start making really big mistakes. I know in a lot of other positions, say you're in your residency at a hospital to become a doctor, those people work crazy long hours and have to learn to work through that mental fatigue. That's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. And there are things you can do to manage that. But first, you have to be able to identify that that's what's going on for you. You might also be experiencing some physical symptoms, which is a good sign that it's not good. Things are not going well. You could have a rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing, dizziness, fatigue, headaches, upset stomach, all kinds of aches and pains, as well as the emotional mood changes, of course, we talked about. Each of us needs to pay attention to are symptoms of, are we overwhelmed?
Yeah, if you start having those phantom illnesses, it might be time
Yeah,
to take a
right.
breather or a day off and do some serious thinking about the choices that you're making in your life.
And what you need to strive for is work-life balance, which is a state of equilibrium where you prioritize the demands of your career and your personal life and your self-care. It's like a three-legged stool. You have work, relationships, and self-care. All three of those have to be addressed or it's going to fall over, just like a stool. The one I've seen most people not take care of is the self-care.
Why is that the one we're willing to let go?
It's really an interesting concept because taking care of yourself is vital for you to be able to function. But if you're raised in a family where you're all about having to take care of other people, make them happy, you learn that you get your value from doing that. We've talked about that with self-esteem.
Mhm.
If you don't prioritize yourself along with everybody else and everything else, like the three-legged stool, they all have to have equal priority. And if you can't do that, or you don't do that, or don't know it's okay to do that because you were taught when you were young that your job is to take care of everybody and everything else, then the stool's going to fall over.
So how do we get to the point where we start acknowledging, okay, the weak link here is me not taking care of me?
That is a great question, and there are many, many things that you can do. First of all, you pay attention to the voice in your head, the old messages that tell you you always have to be there for other people, you have to be perfect at all times, you have to be on top of everything. You only take care of yourself when everything else is done, or it's just selfish of you to put yourself in the mix at all. And that is so unhealthy. Oh my goodness, it's just scary, unhealthy.
Mhm.
And so you have to challenge those messages and give yourself permission to make changes and prioritize yourself and your relationships as well as your work. I always tell my clients, especially the ones who are struggling with work-life balance, this is just a job. If you left, they would find somebody else to do this job. But your family or yourself, there's nobody else to do that. Try to put things in perspective.
That's hard. If you're in a relationship that maybe isn't going very well, if your kids don't need you anymore because they're grown up and you're finding your value at work, hearing they'll be fine without you can be devastating.
It can be, but you cannot get your identity from your work. Lots and lots of people do that. It's interesting when you go to a function, you introduce yourself to somebody and say, "Hi, who are you?" And they will tell you right off the bat, "I'm a reporter," or "I'm a doctor." Yeah, and by the way, what's your name? You know, I mean, I want to get to know the person, and they will instantly tell you their
What
job
they do.
because that's what they identify
Mhm.
with. That's how they identify themselves.
Yeah, try answering that question with the things that you do for yourself. I'm a gardener. I do yoga. Define yourself by
Right.
the things that actually make you you.
Yes. It's important for people to actually take time and identify those things. Who are you outside of your job? And don't say I'm a mother and I'm a wife or I'm a husband or those are more labels. You're not a label. I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm lots of fun. I like to dance. You know, all those things. So I challenge our listeners, define yourself without a role,
I like that.
without a label.
The next item on the list, how you've labeled it, ruthless. Be ruthless. What are we being ruthless at?
You ruthlessly prioritize and focus on one thing at a time. If you make a to-do list, you're never going to get to the end of it because things will always be added. And just be okay with that. Learn how to say no. Many people struggle to say no because they always put other people's feelings before their own.
Mhm.
When you do that, it can lead to overwhelm. It is not selfish to prioritize your own well-being as long as you balance it with that of other people. There are people who only take care of themselves, and that's not healthy either. You need a balance, but you do need to make sure that you put yourself in the mix.
I like this one because it can be scary to think about saying no to people, whether they're asking you for help or favors or time that you are feeling like you just can't give. And I know that feeling in your chest when somebody says, hey, do you want to come do this thing or help this person out? And your chest tightens up because you really don't want to do it. But you also don't know how to say no to this
Yeah.
person who you like and care about and want to have in your life.
Right.
Practice it, because once you say it, that feeling of relief is addictive.
Yes. Right.
And it really is a skill and a muscle. So the more you practice saying no, the easier it will get. And the more you'll start to recognize that feeling in your body that says, you really don't want to do this thing. And it's really okay if you don't. So just tell them, you know what? I would really love to help, but I just don't have the capacity right now. The phrase that I like to use is bandwidth. I just don't have the bandwidth right now. People can't argue with that.
Yeah. Perfect.
And you say, but please ask me next time.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a beautiful feeling.
Yes, because you are taking care of yourself. Actually, you're taking care of your inner child, that little person who wants everything to be okay for everybody all the time. You need to take care of him or her. I think the bottom line is you have to fill your own cup first, because you can't fill someone else's. If yours is empty, you'll just die of thirst.
Yes. And part of saying no is recognizing I don't have to do all of these things. Other people can help. So learning how to delegate, and that also empowers other people, and then also creates some community because you're all sharing the load.
Exactly. It's important for all of us to know we cannot do everything all the time. That's why there are teams. You can't play football by yourself. You need the team.
Truth.
When they play together, it does build community.
And all of this is just about setting boundaries. And if you want to learn more about boundaries, we do have an episode on boundaries, which will help increase the quality of your life exponentially. Learning how to say, no, this is me time. This is what will work best for me. How can it also work best for you without losing yourself or giving away too much of yourself or putting yourself in a position to be overwhelmed, damaged, taken advantage of. Boundaries are huge all the way around, not just in work.
Absolutely. Get clear with yourself about what you will not accept, and then make sure that the people around you understand that.
This is a biggie when it comes to work, because there was a day not too long ago that when you left work, you were done until you went back to work the next day. And now that is not the case.
Right.
And a lot of employers say you're connected to email, you have a computer, you're kind of expected to be on the clock 24 hours a day in some capacity. That's not okay.
It is not. That's overwhelming. Yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, and before that.
Gosh, even 80s and 90s.
Yeah, until the cell phones came along and all the screens where they can contact you anytime, anywhere. You could go out for a walk and not be expected to answer a phone. Or you could go for a weekend somewhere and they couldn't reach you. You don't tell anybody where you went and they couldn't reach you. Phones and the screens and the computers and all that have brought a whole lot of positive, but they have also made it so that we get kind of overwhelmed because we never get away from it. So it's important to give yourself permission to put the phone down, turn it off, walk away from it, and then figure out who you are and what you want to do for you.
Don't forget to take a break.
Yes.
Use your vacation time. My husband is one of the most dependable employees on the planet.
Yes.
And he does not take his vacation time unless I badger him. And he has so much vacation time banked. And it is so frustrating to me. And it's just indicative of our values. I have different values around this. I want to play in my life, and he wants to work. And I'm like, you're going to lose it, man. They're going to take it away from you. You're not going to get paid for it. Use your vacation time. There's a reason you have it.
Yes, they want him to take it because he will come back refreshed.
Yes.
And sharper than when he left.
So take a break.
He's one of those reliable, responsible people. So,
and I respect
he's
that.
a great employee.
I do, but balance, buddy, balance,
Yeah, right. And it's important to schedule time for yourself, no matter how busy you are. Self-care, take a walk, go out with a friend and have lunch, anything that makes you happy. Read a book, take a bath, take a yoga class, whatever works. time for you.
Yeah. That doesn't mean time for you working.
No, 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 no.
If it's working on something at home like a project or building a tree house or knitting, do something that supports your growth and happiness and ability to breathe and is fun.
Is fun. And then some people find that if you journal, it helps. They just write down what's going on in their head, and that helps to relax their mind and reduce stress levels for some people. For other people, that's a pain too. So you have to know yourself.
Yep. And if you don't have time to take a vacation or write it down, just breathe. Take 30 seconds and do some breathing exercises.
There's a breathing technique for anxiety, which is called the 4-7-8 technique. Means you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and breathe out through your mouth for 8 seconds. If you repeat this 4 times, you will find that you are more relaxed and that you feel less overwhelmed. Also, meditation. Some people like to meditate. Other people think that's too woo-woo. But if you are into meditation, just means relaxing your mind, focusing on something like the ticking clock or the sound of the birds singing or something other than letting your mind run crazy.
Yeah.
Can also be very helpful.
And just put your phone down. I think we think that staring at our
Yes.
phone and scrolling is relaxing, and I know that it can be a whole lot of fun, but it's not doing you any good. There's so much negativity out there, and just put the phone down.
Yeah.
Go outside and get the mail, appreciate the trees and the birds, and then come back inside. And just that little digital detox will benefit your whole day.
Absolutely. If you do that like an hour before you go to bed, I know that'd be really hard for a lot of people, but if you can do that, it will help you get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Find something positive to do before you go to bed that is not on your screen. And once you're able to get some good sleep, you will find you're less overwhelmed.
And then here's one that you do. You go for a walk.
All the time.
Every day.
Every day. It's interesting. I pass other walkers and they always have little earbuds in their ears and they're listening or they're talking on their phone to somebody. And I think, oh my goodness, that's not the purpose for me of my walk. My walk is to get my brain away from all the shoulds, get my brain away from all the things I'm supposed to do or have to do. Notice my surroundings. Be really present. And that's really powerful. Taking a walk while you're plugged in is good for your body, but it really doesn't help your mental health.
That's another one of those American things like, I have to be exercising. I have to be exercising. That means doing something to distract you from the fact that you're exercising.
Maybe just find the joy in what your body's doing when you're exercising.
Oh, I like that.
And pay attention to that. And stop being such a perfectionist. Go easy on yourself. No one is perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. You are the perfect you. If you lower your standards, nobody will ever even notice. Just be you.
I don't even think of it like lowering your standards. I just think rather than focusing on aiming for perfection, just appreciate the flaws. It's what makes us all different and beautiful. That's the whole point, is variety.
Absolutely. You are very right. And always remember that you are as important as everyone and everything else. So live your life like that.
Yeah, I like that.
And you will not be overwhelmed and you will have a lot of good work-life balance.
And truthfully, I think we do need to say, if you find that you're practicing all these steps and aiming for some kind of balance and you're not finding it, it might be time to look for another job.
Absolutely. It is just a job. I realize you need a job to provide food, clothing, and shelter. That is very important. But once those are covered, and there are lots of jobs that will do that, if you have a partner that's working, that gives you space to maybe reevaluate your job. Or if you are on your own, you can find something else to do that will be less stressful.
Even the act of deciding, okay, staying in this position isn't good for me. I'm going to just start putting some feelers out there. There's something very empowering about that that will help you approach your current position differently. You'll notice that you'll feel a little bit of space in what you're doing, a little bit of breathing room, just by making the decision to maybe focus on something different that's better for you, even if it hasn't shown up yet.
That is very true and very wise.
I've done it.
You've done what? What have you done? Tell us what you've done.
Well, just been in a position that was really bad for me. I was working 911
Yes.
dispatch at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was really
Yeah.
taking an effect on my health. I lost 14 pounds in the first 3 months, and then this
Oh my
pandemic
goodness.
hit, and I took a long, hard look at it and went, okay, I'm already not healthy. I'm just starting out, and now there's this worldwide health crisis. Does it behoove me to keep
Yes.
going to work? And thankfully, I have a husband who's gainfully employed and also very supportive and saw the effect that my current position was taking on my mental health as well as physical health. And he said, yeah, I don't think you should be doing this.
And now you have a job you love.
See?
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
But you took care of yourself. That's how you deal with overwhelm, is you prioritize yourself in the mix and things will balance out.
I've been in a position of being so stressed that I made myself sick. And now I
Yeah.
don't have the luxury of doing that anymore. It will send me down a really bad spiral. And that was just a huge
Yes.
universal lesson in listening to my body and taking care of me. And I hope that
Yes.
most of us don't have to go that far.
Right. And that's why we are doing this for our listeners, is so you can step back and look at where you're coming from, see if it's working for you. And if it's not, if you are stressed or overwhelmed or getting sick or your relationships are falling apart, create some work-life balance or change your job.
How did you find it? Did you have it modeled for you when you were a kid? Your parents worked hard. Well, you were raised in the 50s, so your father worked hard,
Right.
but your mom worked hard at
Right.
home. But they also liked to
Right.
play. They enjoyed life.
They did. My father had the job. My mother was staying at home, taking care of my sister and me and the house and everything else. My father went to work and made the money, but he also liked to play. And he had men friends that he would go fishing with for 3 or 4 days, or he would go out on a boat, or he would play golf. He liked to play golf, and he took care of himself. And then he also made sure that the family, my sister and I and my mother, were included in a lot of play.
Mhm.
We went on trips and we did things. And so I was very fortunate that I did have that model, that role model, that you can work hard, prioritize yourself, and prioritize your family. It's that three-legged stool, and it works well. It was great.
Have you ever been overwhelmed at work?
No.
Wow, what a thing to be able to say.
Well, I've worked for myself most of the time. I've been a counselor and a coach for 35, 40 years, so I have been very fortunate.
You have a good boss.
Yes, I do. I have a very understanding boss. And I'm glad that you figured it out so that you are taking care of yourself.
Well, I had a good role model.
And that's what we want our listeners to do.
Awesome. Well, wrap us up.
So, being reliable, responsible, and trustworthy is usually a good thing, but it can become a problem if you focus so much on taking care of others that you forget to take care of yourself. When this happens, you might feel overwhelmed and unable to do your job or anything else. There are many ways you can identify if you're feeling overwhelmed, including being short-tempered, experiencing a fuzzy brain, and physical and emotional symptoms like anxiety, digestive problems, irrational thoughts, and short-temperedness. There are many things you can do to create work-life balance. Begin by becoming aware of the thoughts that are driving you to exhaustion. Identify the old messages that might be driving you and challenge their validity. Prioritize what is important in all 3 areas of your life. Set boundaries around what you will and will not do and stick to them. Start saying no. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. Give yourself permission to prioritize yourself and your personal life as much as you do your work life and your relationships, and claim your power and find the joy in living a balanced life.
You make it sound so easy.
It's all about taking charge of yourself.
Yeah, that's where your power is.
That's it.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks to our listeners for hanging in there with us for 70 episodes. This
Woohoo!
is so exciting.
And please get in touch with us. We love hearing from you. You tell us your stories about how self-esteem and personal power affect your life. You also suggest topics that we can address in future episodes, and we love that as well. And if you feel like doing so, we would also love if you wanted to review our podcast, and you can do that anywhere you stream, or you can just visit yourpersonalpowerpod.com, click contact, and drop us an email. We are excited to tell you that we are on Instagram, where you can find us at Your Personal Power Pod, so you can interact with us there. And if you want to learn how coaching can change your life, reach out to Sandy for your free personal coaching call. Her email address is sandy@insidejobscoach.com. And again, thank you for listening. We love doing this with you guys, and we look forward to hearing from you. So until next time, find your power and change your life.